Okay, guys, how we doing? Sam here with you. It's the first of the month, first of August here on a Thursday, so we're looking at traditionals today. You guys saw the polling. The S&P was out front here, so I figured I'd start here and we'll circle back and see how the polling looks when I'm done here. Now, of course, we've been through the Fed announcement here. We've got all the volatility out of the market here, and you start to see now the true intention of the market. A lot of confusion yesterday, so when in doubt, the market, of course, very commonly will sell off. But where it sells off to and how it's responding today, I think there are certainly some tells here. Now, I was going to approach this much like I did Bitcoin last week here, with and without the Elliott Wave, because I think you can make a case here that the Elliott is causing more confusion here. And while we can get a count on this, it's very much open to interpretation, and because we're moving in a somewhat non-typical, non-traditional way, I think the count is potentially creating more confusion than it's helping here. So let me walk you through this here. So I'm just going to focus on this low here. Now, of course, right, we got to consider the entire move from the '09 low here, but I'm going to focus here from our low here, and well, this is the 16 low, so we could call this the Trump era. So just working off of this, so right, obviously we've had the classic V bottom here. All right, so that was pretty remarkable. I mean, it's damn near tick to tick, right? It's just a perfect V. So that's it's not uncommon for the market to do that. So as we look here, well then, so of course the first thing you're thinking is, oh, why is it stop there? Well, interestingly, it's if I use this pivot here, it looks better here with regards to the 50, but I'd be more inclined to work here, because if you're thinking here, well, what's an algorithm using there? Right? So are you thinking here, maybe here? There's golden zone, right? So that target has been hit, but right, they wouldn't have sat through that. So I think you have to go back to this low, work with the pivot here of the V bottom here. Now this was extreme, so we end up a little bit, in no man's land. Obviously, right, no surprise, you get a big hole here in the volume profile as we don't have market acceptance there. It's quickly rejected, right? That's really what that's telling you, how quickly the market rejected that price. But so what do we have here? So I've got a swing, I've got an internal retracement, now I've got an external retracement. So with it, now we've gone external to that. So obviously we're going to have an algo target sitting up here. So are we just game on until we get there? Well, it's hard to argue with that. Now there are a few hurdles we're going to have to get through here technically, because despite today's big rip here, there are some warning signs here. So if you were looking at this, let's just zoom in a little bit here, because this is really more a lesson in just how the market responds so typically to important levels. So the first thing we look at here is we've got a couple of obvious pivots that I would encourage you to wick those off, right? Prior resistance potentially sets up as support. And then a couple of other things that will just jump right out of you here as we came down here. You can see a perfect little three-wave correction. Now this is visible range. All right, so if we just focus on this whole corrective area here, there's your point of control, right? That I promise you that's not coincidental. So as we bring this up here, what do we see here? If you really just look at this, right? So don't think Elliott Wave. Just think in terms of structure and market pattern. So if I'm just trying to get a feel for what I've got here, so first thing I might do is just start seeing if I can connecting some highs. So if I start here and I go to that one, I go, all right, that's kind of interesting. Well, what if I keep going? Well, it's kind of interesting there. I mean, we have just tagged that. These are right tick to tick to tick. Well, so then immediately, I'm sure you guys would consider this, right? So then you kind of want to go this way, right? And say, well, wow, I got quite the megaphone here that's going in. Now, so what am I seeing here? I see this tendency here. So this might lead us towards an Elliott alternate here, but this looks like perhaps something that could be certainly shaping up, right? So the potential for that is certainly there given what we're seeing here. Now, obviously, if we blow right through this, and we break that. So this trend line, very reasonable possibility here that we break higher and then we come down to test that from above, and then that would be potentially a pretty solid buying opportunity as you come back to that support. And I say that because look how significant, how consistently the market has responded to just that kind of thing. So just given yesterday's sell-off, let's zoom in a little bit to yesterday's sell-off. If I didn't mention, I should mention here I'm on a daily chart. So here's the prior pivot as we're going down yesterday. Well, let's see, maybe it's easier. We'll come to let's go to an 8-hour. Squeeze this in a little bit. All right, so we come down here. Now we get a couple of ticks through it, but we essentially come to this zone here, right? This prior resistance here now becoming the support. So just wicking off, or just connecting those two pivots, I get a nice soft landing spot here, and you can see there's the Vegas wave right underneath it. So if you were watching yesterday thinking, I wonder where that's going, that, if you just, most is rudimentary technical analysis you could possibly apply would be just well, there's an area that looks like that might be support. Now you're also right here in the volume area you're in the value area of the volume profile here. So this is our, think like a bell curve. There's your one standard deviation of that price action. Now we're accumulating up here as well. So now the market is getting comfortable up here, up above this. All right, so just carrying that over. Now we get the secondary range. You can see that reflected in the volume profile. So we've got to get through this, and then this will, just as we did here, we can do the same type of thing. Just connect these pivots, and we'll create potentially a new support zone should we get through and then come back to retest. So nothing fancy here, nothing that isn't just somewhat common sense here, just in terms of rudimentary technical analysis, right? Looking for areas of support based on prior resistance. That's pretty standard. Let's get back here. All right, so with that established here, let's pick this apart here. See if there's anything here that's meaningful, any meaningful tells. Let's go down to the 4-hour here and just kind of dig into this. Now, this is what's creating, some confusion for Elliott traders if you're trying to get a wave count on this. So here's the challenge, right? So what do you do with this? Well, so if you're looking there, it's just straight up, right? So, and here's where we complete the V bottom. So we do get the nice three-wave chart pattern here that you might anticipate. That's very easy for us to get our heads around. Go, oh, okay, well, something impulsive is being corrected with a nice 3 here. So again, you don't have to be an Elliott, purist to say, okay, well, something. And I think as we've shown this before is technical here. So 50, we got to and through the algo target, but certainly that was fairly easy to spot. I think also we had, this was length of this swing down here. Yep, so we come to the 100, a few wicks through. So we have that kind of swing relationship that we're looking for to try and identify potential technical pivots. But this area here, you get no retracement. Right? So it's tricky. So looking at this, my eye wants to kind of pick it apart and go and work backwards. Okay, working backwards from here, do I see anything that might be significant here? Well, I can kind of see perhaps there's a diagonal here. So this pivot, note here, right, again, in that context of retracing to challenge prior resistance, we come up to test the support. Now they front run it just slightly, but that kicks us up. So if I look here relative to that pivot, I want to start looking, okay, here's where I start to get some depth of retracement. So I want to see, is there some relationship here that I can work with? So I'm going to start with the lowest low. So from this up to my high. Okay, well, here's the 38. Okay, that's got my attention. So I also want to look here. Okay, so here's the last time I get a decent retracement. We come to challenge this resistance. Now, swing high to swing low, and you look at that and you go, right, so yesterday, as it's coming down, let me pull this off here just so you can see it a little more clearly, and you're going, So what happens, right? You're looking at a 5-minute or a tick chart, or a lot of times we're looking at Renko bars. So you're coming down and you're going, shit, man, that thing is free falling. Well, it was easy enough to spot where it was likely to go. You just had to pull out to a larger time frame. Just start looking at pivots, right? Where's it going? Where's it go? Right? No surprise. We go right to the 618 from this pivot. So just look at just standard, right? Here's the swing low, swing high. We come down 618 to the tick. Right, so as you were reviewing the day, if you didn't catch that while it was happening in real time, that's a reasonable spot to go, okay, well, this is certainly meaningful. I've got a technical pivot here to some degree. So that's telling me that likely, right, this is algo driven. So they rip it down and algo kicks in here that's using this pivot and they defend. And now we pretty much have picked back everything that we lost yesterday. Right, here's the Fed announcement. We've got almost 100% of it back. Down we go. Market's confused. They digest it. Well, what are they really saying? And then it's just straight up today. So I know I've got a technical pivot here. So if I start putting some, I know this is meaningful to me, this pivot here. And again, you know, as we were looking at before, it's not to the tick here, it's to the tick on the 618. But this structure clearly played a role in it, right? It was right where we were coming into all of this volume profile. We come down, we get just a hair through that, just enough to tag the 618, and then we get this bounce. So if you're looking for a target here in terms of where this might be going, I sure as hell wouldn't bet against that. Right. So you can see, if we're remember, you know, I'll always remind you, there's always an algo on the other side. Well, we've broken through that, so this is a clear path to get here. Well, then you go, well, wait a minute. Let's put that back in the context of where we started, which is recognizing that there's a trend line here that is in play, right? That's being challenged. So if we're going to get through that, right, that's a reasonable spot to be looking for it to get. So I promise you there's going to be some resistance there. But it doesn't mean we can't get through. If we get through, then we're, you know, clear skies, right? The new all-time high. So I don't know that I'd be looking to get short here, even though I look at this and go, man, that kind of interesting. And we could apply some Elliott Wave to this and say, so here's another way you could do this here. Just trying to get a sense of, right now, you know, if you look at, unless you're day trading, you know, we're sitting here, it's noon in New York. I don't think you want to be pursuing anything in the immediate term here because you've got these mixed signals. So here's another way you could think of it here. So we could do it this way. So let's just connect it here. So we're getting tick to tick. Now, if I'm going to create a channel, I'm really looking for areas where I've got multiple pivots that seem to be in play. And I'm just connecting these two dots here. Okay, so that give me, so I'm kind of watching for the midline here to see if that's playing a role here, but of course that doesn't give me enough to accommodate that larger move. So I'm just going to clone this and then just bring it down. So I'd look both here. Well, this will get the whole thing. So I'm just doubling the channel. So I get, if this is going to start doing some of those, let's put this back together here where we started. If this is going to start to be a factor, so now you can see, so same thing here, you can see this going, whether I do it with a channel or whether I do it with trend lines here, I've got the potential, if this is going to stall up here, boy, do I have a big target down here. In the context of thinking, well, maybe I've got an asymmetrical triangle here. Maybe I've got something like this, right? And then you'd be anticipating something like that. That would actually set up, right, if we're thinking with our Elliott hats, that would set up the longer term buy opportunity here. So you put that there and you go, wonder how that would play in the context of the larger structure here. If I can get it all on the screen here. Well, at the very least, so we look here, that'd be bringing us back down to this potentially this area of support. Now, as we pull out, note where the point of control goes. So if you're, now, of course, we don't know the time that's going to take, but let's just put that, kind of like that there. So something like that, kind of interesting. So now I'm looking, okay, let's go back. Damn it, shit, I can't do it. I got to go to a 3-day. Let's go back here to some of this prior. Let's see what's here. So if I'm thinking, is there a possibility here that there'd be something worth waiting for here? Well, look where that would put us. Right back at the 38. So, right, we can certainly get an impulse moving up there. So if that's going to come down here, then this becomes really. Now, is that going to happen? Well, it's hard to say, but I certainly would want to keep that somewhere as a contender. Now, there's no Elliott Wave here, really. We can just, even though it's being implied to some degree. And I'm going to put the Elliott on here in a second. But when you look at that, if we stall up here, boy, that would be, what an opportunity that would be. Now that's the market, so something's going to have to change. That's bringing the market down almost 1,000 points, where we're almost exactly 1,000 points. So something significant is going to have to happen here. Well, we certainly live in times where something significant, whether it's trade dispute or I'll let you fill in the blanks there. We certainly live in times where something significant could scare the market. And then you think, well, now we're up 300. It's all come back today, so it looks like it's just game on, and we're just going to go right up and get some of these upper targets. And certainly that's possible. Trying to outthink the market because now it looks like easy money. Well, the first thing I would caution you is there is no easy money in the market. So if it looks like it's easy money just to be a buyer here of equities, I'd bridle that thought, but before you just start buying aggressively here. There, looking at the oscillators here. Let me go back to a daily here. Get off of there. Let's go back to a daily here. All right, we always start with the daily. As we're coming up here to this, you've got pretty clear divergence here. If we're just using the Elliott oscillator, if we look here, this is pretty substantial drop off in volume. You got some divergence here. Note here in the RSI, we've come back to tap the 50 before we relaunched. Very common, right? So you see that all the time with the RSI. It's back to the 50, then back to technical. Well, let's just call it over 70 in this case. I don't like to use the word overbought, oversold, because these things can stay overbought, oversold for a very long period of time. But this retest at the 50, that's not insignificant, and that's what we did yesterday. As it came down, we come to the 50, we retest. But there's certainly plenty of divergence here to imply that this move higher is not moving more aggressively than the last one. Even here was the peak of it. So if you look at the Elliott oscillator, right here is the peak of the strength. Let's pull that. So, a lot is going to have to happen, right? If this is going to get weak here, and of course we'd be looking for this to come down in some sort of a 3 to get here, right? And that could subdivide into multiple wave structures and counts here. But as I look here, I'm not dying to just buy aggressively here up at all-time highs or approaching all-time highs. So I would approach with caution here based on just those factors that we looked at. Now, all of that said, let's see. What's the best way to do this here? Let me remove all the drawing tools. Okay, let's talk about whether an Elliott count can be helpful here, because we've analyzed this with an Elliott perspective here. We'll go back to these lows here. So I finally figured out how to do this. So let's just look in here. So let me start putting some Elliott on. So there's, I don't know if that's going to work. Hopefully I didn't knock them all off. Did I? I might have. Okay, well we can recreate it. Okay, so in the last counts, right? I just remember because I still have this here. We had looked at this as a potential impulse coming up. Then pretty clearly we got an ABC coming down here, right? Those aren't difficult to spot. This was a little unusual, but the subdivision in that third is quite tricky here. But then the one, you've got a bit of a shitty. You got a very clear 1-2. Well, let's just label it. You got a nice easy 1-2, but the 3, 4, 5 was a little tricky. Let's get that down here. Put it in blue. So that was a little tricky. So something completes here, but very hard to get the subdivision to play here, particularly in that third. But we can finish with the 5. There's the clear 3. It's not, right? You'd be thinking, oh, I want something deeper to the 50, right? We know 12%, approximately 12% statistically of wave 2s only make the 38. Right? So majority come lower, but it's still 12%, only make the 38. So there's your 12%. There we go. Now coming off of this, again, it's really tricky to get a count here other than the fact that we can identify the potential for, let me zoom in here. Let's go to a 2-hour. We've got this. Okay, this is what's making this tricky. Okay, where's your 1-2 here, right? You really don't have it. Where you can start to get a count is we can work backwards from here and say, looks like I might have 5 in there. So if I just kind of work off of this 1-2, looks like could be 3 there. That's interesting. 4, maybe 5 there. Now, just force of habit, as I would with any Elliott count, I'm going to put a a little line here on the wave one high. I want to tag that off here. Now, this is very interesting. So note what happens here as we, let's get it right on there. As we come down here and we make this, so here A, B, C, we don't overlap the 1. So so immediately I want to put my 4 there. Now it's going to be a little trickier here. So you can see the 5 of the 3, and this is likely technical here, right? So here's the 50. Now interestingly, we've just hit the target here. They front run, very possible here, but this would have happened before the market sold off, right? The big sell-off yesterday. So that you can see what happens here. They tag it, whether they're here or not, they get their target. Here's the 50, there's the target. So they get it, right? Should surprise no one. Then you come up to this pivot here and you go, okay, where's that going? And now we see right to the 618. So let me take that off just to clear it up. So and then here's the 618. Now we're bouncing. So what do I have here as an Elliott trader? I've got from this pivot here, let's just wick this off as well. From this pivot here, I got a 5 here. Now, this is, it's the 1-2 is really skinny, but I'm on a, what am I on? I'm on a 2 hour. So you got to get the 1-2 right off the bat. Then you got to get your 3, 4, 5 of your third. So you can dig an impulse out of that. Again, it's a little squirrely, and we double top here into the 5 where they get that algo target A, B, C. Down we go. So from this pivot, I have an Elliott count here. But what do I do with this working backwards? Does that look like, can I get it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I suppose you can. Let's go 30 minute. Let's see if we can dig into that. Boy, the 2 is just ugly. It's really, you're gonna have to go. Jesus. Maybe you could do it here. 3, 4, 5. Let's get that. Oh, we'll leave it there. Let's just change the color so we can see it a little better. Okay, so that would have to be the 1 here. Let's go up a degree. 1, right? There's your 2. Right? That wouldn't even. That's probably the 23. Right? It's a very small percentage here. Now I can get the 3. There's the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh shit. Right? It's not great, right? So it's not really helping you because it's creating doubt. So you're looking at this going, do I have? Well, so it's impulsive, but just in terms of the rip that we make here. But the subdivision, very tricky. It's a bit of a guesstimate. So I've got something that completes here. There's my 1. Now that can't be a 3. Well, could be a 3, right? But it implies we'd have to have a much shorter 5, right? So the extension's in the 1, down for the 2. I do get an impulse here because we don't overlap. I mean, it's to the tick. It holds it. Got an impulse. So I can go 1. Well, let's hear. Let's yes. Let's just check the length here. So I can take the length of the 3 from the 4, right? So 5 would be shorter. So technically, yeah, you could make that work. Do I want to go? I'm just kind of looking at this here on the fly. Do I want to go 1, 2? 3 is so short, so we'd be done here. Suppose the other alternate is here. If this is the, let's take this all the way. This would have to come down here. So this would be the 1, 2 at this degree. See, I don't love it. So I don't know whether I want to go. Oh, just thinking out loud with you guys. All right. So do we want to go this way? All right, is it 1, 2? Can I get this as the 3? I don't think so. So I've got to have a massive extension in the first, down for the second. Already, right? Just eyeballing it, it's a little tough to, you want to call that a 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think you have to do it that way because I was just looking. Could we go 1, 2, 1, 2? Well, we may have to. Right? So if something has completed here, we've got a very unusual formation here from an Elliott perspective with a massive extension in the first. Technically, it plays, right? So since I don't get the overlap here, the 3 is a little shaky here, but the 4 is solid. We don't overlap, and then you have to dig. I'm now on a 30 minute. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a double top. So what are we correcting here? Well, it appears that we're correcting. We can't be correcting from, well, shit, we can, right? So we'd be down at the 23. Are we correcting a completed impulse here? Boy, I certainly wouldn't script it that way. So could this be the, well, what's the alternate, right? So since it's a 618, pardon me, since it's a 618 from this pivot, 1, 2, I don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if it's complete, it doesn't help me to be complete from this pivot, other than if I'm thinking just from my algo swings here. Well, it gives me a target, right? We can see, right? They've got that in their sights. There's no resistance to fight them off. So you wouldn't want to bet against them getting there. So that takes you back to, remember, we've got those trend lines here suggesting that if that gets through it, that there's clear sailing up above. So is that possible? What do you do with this? I'm in the camp that because it's creating this confusion, I think you're too late for the sell. Let's get back here. Just try and put this back on here so we can just in the context of what we were looking at before. So it's really you're late to be a buyer here. So if you're dying to get a trade on here, I need to see this come up and then come back and retest it. That's your next trade. So you're going to have to wait. Well, shit, in my opinion, you need to wait and see, do we get through it? So let's go to an hourly here and just look at it. Do we get through that trend line here? We could have a little throw over here, but you'd be anticipating if it's going to go bigger here. Maybe we get second, maybe we get third target. So we've got something here I've got a technical pivot. I wouldn't want to bet against it not getting there, given that it's broken the sell side resistance. So I want to see what happens here. So we have this little box up here. How strong are we? Are we going to just blow right through that? This is the next target area that I would be anticipating. So if we get up there, you'd have a slight throw over on the trend line. You wouldn't say, oh, well, I don't want to use that trend line anymore because we had a slight throw over. So I wouldn't be quick to do that, but I want to see if we complete here, can I work backwards? Is this the two? Jesus, I really, so back to the Elliott is hurting me, not helping me here. So just keep that in mind. This is one of those cases where it's not contributing to the analysis here. So what I want to see is what comes up. Do we get up here? Is there any fib relationship there beyond just the straight algo play off of the golden zone? And then does the market react there? Do we get a reaction if we start a reach? Now, I wouldn't be looking to short it there. We don't want to fight this trend. We don't want to fight the Fed. We don't want to fight this trend. So where's the opportunity? We need to wait now, because this, if you didn't catch this, you're too late for the party, in my view. I wouldn't want to be buying it up 300 on the assumption here that, oh, well, I'm just going to buy it. It's just going to keep going. I'd be looking for, if I'm looking for an entry now, I'd go back down to that smaller time frame, and you got to wait for a retracement. Let's pull this off of here. All right, so do we have the potential for a count that's underway off of this low? Well, that's equally, a little. So here's the low. Up we go, down for the 2. So even that, it's just the Elliott is not helping us here. Where are we retracing from? So here's the pivot high. So we break. We come 786. What do we get here? Well, it's. So this is the low. We come all the way back here. So this pivot is worth noting here. All right, I would keep an eye on this pivot here. Is potentially that's where we ripped back up yesterday, right after the market kind of rethought what he was saying, or after the press conference. Then we come back down. We don't break the low, but now we're in some sort of looks more like an ABC, and there's the 3. So perhaps some sort of a diagonal going in. Let's just you're kind of searching for something technical to lean into. So we've broken the 100. If that's going to play as 1, 2, I sure don't like. So you'd have to go. I guess you could do it. You could get it here. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a diagonal. So you could go 1, 2, 3 is going in for 5. So I think you're likely to be looking at the next opportunity here being a retrace. Let's wick this off, even though we've got to deal with the volatility in that giant wick. From here, I think I can go 1, 2. That looks like the 3. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to get long here, the next trade, you're going to have to wait for the retrace here. So let's get that off of here from the 2 to the 3. Let's get, interestingly, went right back to the point of control. So here, now we're back to this pivot. If we retrace here and come back down to this area here, well, you're going to have a little bit of a divot here. Obviously, we're going to have potentially some reaction there to prior resistance kicking in. So as far as I'm concerned, the next swing trade is right there. That would bring you right here. But I'm not dying to jump on that. It's a little confusing up here. I will gladly miss a swing just to get more clarity on where the hell we are in this count, because it's so atypical. Right? We're having these huge moves and there's no retracement. So as an Elliott trader, even just a Fibs retracement trader, it's hard to get a picture on exactly what's happening on the larger picture. Here's the one thing I know. I've got a technical pivot here, and I seem to be coming off of this with a motive wave. Now it's too early to really lock in on these labels, but right now, if I had to label it, that's how I'd put it. Now we're coming back up here into all of this market acceptance up here. So wouldn't be surprising that you see a lot of trading happening in here, because the big players can hide their size in here. Now everybody wants the market to keep going higher. We know that, right? The market always has a natural bias to go higher. So I'm not looking to short it here unless something really substantial changes, but I'd be looking for this to complete, and then I'd be just waiting for the A, B, C to come down and give me a chance to get into that potential third. So just using the algo target here. If we get the 4 here, and let's bring this, you'd have to go all the way down. So something like even down here, like that. So we get an ABC, come down here to the golden zone of the 50. Here's your next buy opportunity. In my view, I'd be just patiently waiting to let this shape up, and then give me my 3 coming down here. Then when I've got that, then I can just start putting some geometry into it. Now I get potentially a golden corner here, or a corner at the 50, depends on what this is going to shape up like, and then I'm looking for that. Right, if you're going to try and swing trade that, I'd do it with options. Right now, you got very high volatility after yesterday. It's going to get sucked out quickly today. But over the next, you can anticipate over the next week, because you'd assume this might take a week, that the volatility is going to come out of the options market. So the opportunity here to buy an at-the-money call, maybe you sell an out-of-the-money put spread here to help offset that cost, because you're going to want, I would tell you not buy an option that doesn't have 60 days of life expectancy, right? So you don't want that time decay to be eating away at the value of your option the second you get it, right? You don't want that to accelerate. So if you go 60 days or longer, you won't experience that time decay as quickly, but you're going to pay a premium for it. So then maybe selling an out of the money down here, selling out of the money put spread, a covered put spread. Right, so you're selling the call closer to the market and buying the call on the other side. That'll create a premium for you, because you're selling the closer to the market, so that will be more expensive than the further. So you do a credit spread here to offset the cost, because that option will be pricey, right? But the other thought is, maybe if you don't want to carry the risk and the margin of holding overnight, go to the minis. Or the micros, I should say, right? So these are the minis. The ES is the mini. You go to the micros, so you can build a position here with the micros, or you could do it with a CFD with your FX broker, right? Just some lower cost alternatives rather than tying up all that margin there. All right, holy shit, I went 33 minutes there. Okay, guys, I didn't mean to go that long, but there's just a lot to unpack here. Okay, that'll probably do it for now. Certainly, I'll be watching that. All right, guys, back to you later.